Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Continuing on with the way the Salaf held their nafs, their soul, accountable, and the way that they criticized themselves. So when we left off on the first point. The minhaj of the Salaf is not merely Aqidah. Well, these not points, but the three issues that one should look into before they get to the meat of the book. But these three things, when you look at these three things and understand these three things can be a foundation for some of the corruption that's in the soul, that's in the Nafs, right? So the second one is the believer and the dunya. How the believer deal with the dunya, how they live in the dunya, and how they view the dunya. But these is, keep in mind, this is going to be from the Salaf, right? And then the third one is the relationship between the Muslims. The relationship between the Muslims. Khalil, let me write it down. Brother Khalil, he had asked me a question in one of my other videos about the Madhabs and a hadith. I'm going to answer that question for you, inshallah. Let me do this a little bit real quick so I don't forget. But let me go through this a little bit to get through some of the meat of this before I answer that question, which was a good question. The brother basically asked me the hadith that speak about the first three generations, the first 3 or 4 generations being the best generation of Muslims. And it's, that hadith is the reason why people follow the 4 madhabs, which that hadith isn't the reason why they follow the 4 madhabs, but we'll get into it bi'ithni Allah ta'ala. Allah, please allow me to stay in mind to answer the brother question towards the end. So, the relationship between the Muslims. So, again, issue number 1, being mindful and understanding that the minhaj of the Salaf isn't restricted to or just merely about Aqidah and what you believe. Like some of the important points, it's about your manners. It's about how you treat people, your characteristics, what you actually acting up on, being about dalil. You understand? And we finna get to the second issue, the believer and the dunya. So, the believer in the dunya, right? Now, this is from the translator, right? So this is his introduction and why he chose to do the brother book. So this isn't actually the Imam yet. But what he's coming from is not his own opinion. This is scholarly work. So we live in a time where success is measured in a person's achievements, in dunya, what they have. And this is things that I speak about constantly. As far as the Muslims, some of us judge how Allah feels about us or what we got going on based off of things we feel like we have accomplished in this dunya. Cars, clothes, we may be a little educated, we may have some trades under our belts, we may even have a little bit of money, through decent jobs, but Islamically, we might not be on the level. You see? So, when you start to read the Quran and the Hadiths and see what Allah judges us by, I always try to remind people, it don't have nothing to do with what you have, because if it was about what you have, people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, people who can burn up some billions of dollars and still be a billionaire. Do that mean that Allah love them? Do that mean that they on the hawk? You see what I'm saying? So, us, this for now on a lower level, this is why we need to stay mindful for this as the Muslim and the believer who get too caught up in the dunya, because in our culture, collecting shoes, belts, trinkets, jewelries, different type of cars and all this type of stuff, and having these little things, trying to keep up with the trends. See, we followers of trends, and all they have to do, one way to destroy us is to set a negative trend for us to follow. Just like right now, for the youth, being a murderer, collecting hats is a trend. I don't know about in a lot of other cities, but like in Chicago, right now you got kids who 15, 16, 17, and then already killed 11, 12 people. Imagine that. You 16 years old and you done already killed 12 people and still on the streets. And then your homie made and killed 10. These real numbers. And then get on YouTube and go to platforms. Right now you have people who be on platforms doing interviews because they murderers and still on the streets. Not because they rappers, not because they athletes. You know what I'm saying? You have platforms in Chicago where they interview murderers who trying to do a little music, but they just trying to build off the fame. But this is a negative trend that's trending. Young people want to kill. Some of them feel like they have no choice. But this is dunya. The Muslims supposed to avoid these trends, getting caught up in the shoe game, getting caught up in this. Just like I was mentioning with the brother, we just gonna give him the benefit of the doubt to say that he did have on a $10,000 thobe for the Eid. You okay? Maybe the man got millions up on millions of dollars, where $10,000 is like a dollar to him. But maybe he got a $10,000 thobe and he's still living in a row house that he don't own, possibly with his parents. Might not even have a car for real. Or what you got going on that you can spend $10,000 on a thobe. Maybe he got business. But this could possibly be too much dunya, and it's going to trend. At some point, the Muslim has to separate himself from this much dunya, because you have a $10,000 thobe on because it's Louis Vuitton. You may be like, Allah favored me. Look at me at the Eid in a $10,000 thobe. Allah love me. But then in reality, what did you get? What did you have to do? They may have robbed, they may have stealed, they may have killed just to spend, listen to this number, listen to me closely, $10,000 on a thobe. You might have a Muslim family member who working a 9 to 5, but catching the bus. It could be a $2,000, $3,000 car out there that you could have bought them. $10,000 for a thobe. Thobe. It didn't include this and the shoes. At least the way they said, the thobe alone was $10,000. 10 G's. You see what I'm saying? You could have took that $10,000 and put a down payment. You could have started a business with $10,000. You see what I'm saying? You could have started a business with 10 G's. You could have, you know how many Muslims you could have fed? But that's neither here nor there. But one of the issues, the believer and the dunya. But like I said, maybe they're a multi-millionaire where $10,000 is like a dollar. But $10,000 on a thobe just because it was Louis Vuitton. You could have opened a thobe store. You understand? But trying to trend. And then more people gonna start, now we finna be having the Louis Vuitton versus Prada versus this designer. Now the E's gonna be about designer thobes and abayas on broke people. But look what it says, right? Where success is measured in a person's achievements in the dunya and in accordance with how much wealth they have gathered and is able to display in the world. But this is in complete contradictory to the message delivered to us by the evidences of Islam. There is no ayat in the book of Allah that mentions the craving for dunya, except that this is something negative and dispraised by Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal says in MashaAllah Tabarakallah in the Quran, competing and amassing worldly things distract you until you visit the grave. One warning from Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal also says, no, rather you do not honor the rights of the orphans, and you do not encourage feeding the poor person, and you devour the inheritance with greed, and you love wealth with an extreme love. Right? Another ayat. Allah Azza wa Jal also says, so when we went out in front of his people when he went out in front of his people in all of his endowments, those who desired the life of the dunya said, if only we had the same as Qarun has been given. They wanted them clothes, and that's why I'm saying, let's say this individual does have money to wear a $10,000 thobe. $10,000 is like a dollar to him. But the people who see that and want that, they might go commit crime. They might rob, steal, and kill just so that the next Eid, which is a few months down the line, so now they can pop out in a $12,000 thobe. But they might rob or kill another Muslim to get it. We have to be able to have some farsightedness like the Salaf. One thing about the Salaf, they was about preserving the deen, and they thought about the generations to come. Not necessarily thinking 1,400, 1,500 years down the road, but they thinking in the next 5 to 10 years. And which you could see in a lot of my message from being around long enough and seeing where Islam was at one point and now what it's becoming. In my mind, I'm already 5 years, 10 years down the road. Right now in 2025, we got another Eid a couple of months down the road. Right now we have to go through metal detectors to show up for the Eid prayer. not to protect us from people who hate Muslims, not to protect us from the white man, but to protect us from who? The African American youth. And not necessarily, I ain't going to keep putting the youth part on them, because it ain't always young people. Just imagine if somebody don't do something to get a hold on it 5-10 years from now. Because I'm going back to 2017, seeing that it done escalated to this, when people talking about it, going to be a day when it's going to escalate up to this, if nobody do nothing. But continuing on, right? So if only we had the same as what Karun has been given, he is verily the owner of a great fortune. Now they want to chase it. You see what I'm saying? And this is a long hadith, so I won't do the whole hadith, but we're going to go into a statement, right? We're going to end with the very end of the hadith, right? It's in Sahih Muslim, when it says, and of course this is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, by Allah, the dunya is verily more worthless to Allah than this goat, this small goat is to you. And just to paraphrase the hadith, because it's kind of long, basically it was a dead, somebody had killed a baby goat, but the ears was like cut off. So he was like, who wanna, basically they just mutilated the goat for fun or whatever reason. So it was dead. So he was like, who will buy this goat from me? This little kid goat. Nobody wanted to buy it because it's worthless. It's dead. It's been dead too long. We can't eat it. The ears cut off. It's mutilated. It's worthless. So the Rasul ends it by saying, this world, the dunya, is as worthless to Allah Azza wa Jal as his goat. Right? So the Salaf knew this, and they believed in it. So this is from the minhaj of the Salaf. Not saying you got to be broke, not saying you got to be poor, not saying you got to live your life destitute, not saying you can't live comfortable, but being excessive in dunya, especially putting your deen to the side and committing all type of haram acts to chase that dunya. So the Salaf knew this and they believed in it. And as a result, they considered the soul craving for dunya as a humiliation for it. Subhanallah, I think. Keep in mind, this is about the Salaf, how they kept their nafs and their soul in check, holding their nafs and soul accountable. And then they criticize their nafs and their soul. Because there's hadiths that say, if your nafs deem you or they find you weak, they're going to mislead you. Because the nafs is what craves. If it find you weak, your own nafs will mislead you. So this is why they held their nafs accountable and criticized their own nafs and their soul to keep themselves in check, right? And they would strive in repelling the love for the dunya from their hearts and their souls. So what he wants us to take away from this book is to measure ourselves and our desires for the dunya in accordance with the evidence from Quran and Sunnah. And even more important, let us ask ourselves the question whether or not it compromises our religion. What we chasing, what we want, does it compromise my religion? Does it compromise my Islam and my deen? Right? Does it compromise my religion? Or even worse, if it's about committing forbidden deeds, right? In order to achieve a part of the worldly life. Like I said, what an individual had to do to get that $10,000 thobe. You know what I'm saying? Not to make it about the brother particularly, because I don't know a situation. Like I said, $10,000 might be like $1 to him. But for the ones who's chasing it, who's really not in that type of a situation, and they robbing, they stealing, and they killing, and they doing anything just to be fly, and then they feel like, I got on a $10,000 thobe, my deen is down the gutter, but Allah loved me because I have a $10,000 thobe. Allah favored me over you because you don't have. Although you doing all these acts of ibadah, Islam not working for you. It's the wrong mindset, right? So, and let us also look at ourselves whether or not if we neglectful in fulfilling the rights of our households, our spouses, husband, wives, children, who are we responsible for? Not only just them, family period. Because like I said, you can have on a $10,000 thobe, but you might have a Muslim cousin who's working they butt off with 3-4 kids, catching a bus trying to get to work. $10,000 on the thobe, you could have spent $2,000-$3,000 on them a car and got all them rewards and blessings from Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what Islam calls for. Probably could have bought a couple of family members a car. Right? So, and specifically looking at our duties with our families to give them a proper Islamic upbringing. Teaching them Islamic knowledge and keeping them far away from being brought up in the care of the kuffar. Right? Just in order for them to keep some comforts of this worthless dunya. You understand? Bringing them up raising them like kafirs, just so that they can live like them. But we just Muslim. We go to the masjid, we pray, but we exactly like kafirs in speech, in appearance, in apparel. Nah, you understand? Because I'm doing a class, man. I got a class, man, and all this is tying together. So I'm dealing with it going through these things, to deal with the new shahadas. But like I always said, every year when Ramadan ends, I have a goal from one Ramadan to the next. So it's usually something I'm studying mixed in with some ibadah. So outside of my memorizing and different things, right, I'm going back to minhaj, right? And I'm going back because now my understanding of minhaj and some of the I won't say knowledge, but some of the understanding that I have is a lot greater than the understanding I had a long time ago. When I was dealt with minhaj and the Salaf for a whole year, that was just getting familiar with it. Getting a firm grasp and understanding exactly what minhaj really is. Now this is more about more implementation, more looking at how they actually view things and digging deeper into the Salaf to bring out more implementation and putting things into practice. So like this, holding myself, my nafs, and my soul accountable for my actions, right? Really looking at myself, seeing the mistakes in me first before I see them in anybody else. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get to the third issue, the relationship between Muslims. And I got to speak on it because just like I know, y'all don't really pay attention to my subscribers. But like I told y'all, all I got to do is watch me lose some subscribers just by saying Tar Heel Wyatt in this video. Or saying some things that's truthful that certain people from a particular group of Salafis, they don't like it. Because it is the truth. And it's facts. And it don't nobody, even whether you call yourself Salafi or not, I'm Salafi. I don't care what they consider me to be. Any city where you have a Salafi masjid that they count as Salafi, there's beef between Muslims, between them and Muslims in the city. I don't care where it's at. Atlanta, Alabama. We ain't even got to talk about the East Coast. If it's a Salafi masjid that they count, it's beef between Muslims in the city, and the beef starts with them. And I want y'all to get to understand something. If you believe in your heart, because of the people that you listen to, that praying in a masjid because they don't call themselves Salafi is an innovation, you need to go learn your religion all over again. Because like I'll take a phrase out of their saying that they like to dupe people with. What scholars preceded y'all in them statements? See, what scholars preceded y'all in them statements? What scholars run around saying that praying in a masjid that doesn't label itself Salafi is an innovation? Or it takes you off the minhaj of Salafiyah? Because being that this is supposed to be minhaj, we need to be able to find them statements from the Salaf, right? Because ain't it about the understanding that the Salaf had? Like a truck driver from Baltimore hit me up and, we had a little discussion about it. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm a truck driver. I be going here because, he go all over. It'd be hard to find a masjid. I can't find a masjid to pray in. So I say to him, where you pray at? Oh, man, sometimes I pray at the truck stop. You know what I said to him? Is that a Salafi truck stop? Oh, man, sometimes I pray at a rest stop. I pray here. Sometimes it be some other truck drivers. It might be their city. And, if we on some downtime, this and that, we might go to their house. And I may pray on a porch or in a back room or something. Is that a Salafi house? Is it a Salafi porch? Why is not an innovation to pray there? When y'all have an Eid and go to a park somewhere and be outside, is that a Salafi park? But you believe in your head it's an innovation? It's not permissible to pray in another masjid just because your particular group doesn't count them as Salafi? What's the innovation? Where the people from the Salaf understood it that way, being that you on an understanding that they had. What scholars, and we need multiple, we need a massive amount of scholars. We need consensus that the scholars who consider themselves to be Salafi say praying in a masjid that doesn't call themselves a Salafi masjid is an innovation or take you off the minhaj of the Salaf. What scholars preceded y'all in those statements? Y'all wouldn't happen to be adding something to the religion, would you? Y'all wouldn't possibly be adding something new to the religion, would you? And you got all these people, truck driver, he going to city to city, masjids all over the city. He don't even know where to go pray. But he praying in parking lots, parks, porches, all squeezed up all in his truck. Is that a Salafi truck? How is it an innovation? If you're going to say it's an innovation or take you off the minhaj of the Salaf, show us more, or with a majority, there's ijma that individuals from the Salaf as-Salih made this statement. You ain't going to find it. So like they said, what scholars preceded you in these what scholars preceded y'all in those statements? People you got, like I said, people moving to a whole new city. May meet a new Muslim sister, this and that, move to a whole new city. Don't go to the masjid. Why you don't go to the masjid? I ain't found the Salafi masjid. Hold on, where you at? Such and such masjid, the Salafi masjid. Oh, well, the brothers say they off it. What's the proof that they off of it, though? What are they doing that's taking them off the understanding that the Salaf had? Because that's what the Salafi minhaj is. What are they doing that's taking them off the minhaj of the Salaf? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, back in 2013, somebody they don't like gave a lecture there? Somebody used to be the teacher there 8 years ago? What are they doing right now that take them off the minhaj of the Salaf? Oh, I don't know. So-and-so was warned against. Who warned against him, and what was the warning, and when was the warning? Oh man, back in 2008, Sheikh Albani said this, that, and the third. Okay, is that person still up on them exact same actions from 2008? Are they still at that masjid? Oh no. Are you sure Sheikh Albani said that? Well, that's what they said. The brothers. Now you not at no masjid at all. That house you in. You know what I'm saying? But people really believe this with a passion. It's not permissible, which means haram. It's haram to go to a masjid that doesn't call itself Salafi. And if it do call itself a Salafi masjid, it has to be accepted by a small group of people in America, and ain't not one of them a scholar or even close. And then at the same time, can't even tell you why the masjid ain't even Salafi. You don't even know the city, never been there. You ruining the relationship with the Muslims. Not understanding the minhaj, point one. And number three, the third issue, the relationship between Muslims. But let me get off that tangent, man, and go into this, man, because people need to understand that. Just think about that. Not a Shiite masjid, not a Sufi masjid. Going in it and making salat is innovation. Or take you off it. You off the minhaj. That don't even sound like Islam. If we're going to be honest with ourselves, where's the refutation for the individual that started that sin? You ain't going to see none. Why? Because he's part of the clique. All these other students that done graduated Mecca, Medina, Egypt, Sudan, all these people who done set up under the scholars with in Kuwait, Yemen, why they don't have this in their minhaj that consider themselves to be Salafi? Why is it a small group of individuals with no graduates, except for maybe two, who done did some things that I won't even speak on, but they didn't warn them females that they was gonna burn, did they? Stock for the law. I ain't gonna go into that. What was the refutation of them actions? But y'all got all these people and all this stuff. Look what y'all doing. But let's get to it. The relationship between the Muslims, right? So the strength of the Muslim Ummah is built upon the Jama'ah. It is built upon the unity of the Muslims in their beliefs, in their speech, and their deeds, but also the unity of the hearts and the mutual love for each other. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions this to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as an example of his. Allah says in the Quran, and He made their hearts united. If you had spent everything which is up on earth, you would never have been able to unite their hearts. United their hearts, but Allah united them because Allah is verily almighty and all wise. This is what's supposed to be going on with the believers. There can't be a push for this unity based off of mistakes that nobody's made or can be proven. This is, let me finish, man. And the Prophet said in the hadith narrated in Sahih Muslim, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the example of the believers in their mutual love, mercy, and compassion for each other is the example of a body. When one part of it complains, is in pain, then the rest of the body will respond to it with sleeplessness and fever. If one part of the body is aching or in pain, the rest of the body is going to be affected by it and feel it. So now, although it may feel like this just me talking from how I'm talking, but with this book being written, this is a call for Muslims to stop that sick behavior. I'm reading from the book on how the Salaf carried it, from a person in the second generation of Muslims. Look at this, right? The unity, love, respect, mercy, and compassion between Muslims, no matter if it is between two brothers, two sisters, husband, wife, parent, child, employer, and employee, can never be achieved by us until we look at ourselves and our souls with the same mindset that the Salaf had. May Allah be pleased with them all, right? And that mindset was finding excuses for every Muslim and seeking mistakes in their own selves before seeking mistakes in others. Ponder over this narration, which is from this very book, right? So check this out. Muhammad ibn Qudama narrated to me from Caliph ibn al-Walid, from a man from Banu Nashal, who said, Mutarif ibn Abdullah said, while we was in Arafat, O Allah, do not reject the invocation, the du'as of all the people due to me. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So today, if any of us would go to Hajj and look at the masses of the people, we would surely not consider ourselves as the worst person among them. Think about that. We ain't even got to say Hajj. Imagine yourself going to Jumu'ah. 500 people. You in a masjid big enough and there's 500 people in there. Who can go in there and say, I'm the worst Muslim in here? Huh? This man made dua saying, Allah, don't choose to not accept their dua because they're around me. Because I'm around while they making dua. because I'm that bad of a person. But if you talk to them about why they think they're a bad person, you'll be like, man, you one of the best Muslim I ever seen, because they might feel like they don't do enough. You know what I'm saying? Like I've said in countless videos, I'm the worst Muslim I know, because I know me and I know what's to me. But it might not be because I'm in the streets, or because I got a million girlfriends, or whatever you may consider to be bad, because Islamically I feel like I don't do enough. Sometimes those be the reasons. I don't got enough Quran memorized. My Arabic ain't strong enough. I don't pray enough at night. Some Muslims consider themselves to be Muslims because they don't do enough ibadah. See, some of us can't even fathom that type of mindset. But look what it says, though. So surely not none of us would consider ourselves as the worst persons amongst everybody there. But the Salaf would say this about themselves, not because they necessarily were, rather because it was from humbleness, excellent character, and holding themselves to account that you can occupy with yourself with your own. You occupy yourself with your own mistakes, right? None of us are free from mistakes. So none of us are free from mistakes. To throw whole entire people and masjids away from a mistake, not something that's intentional. For a mistake, throwing Muslims away over mistakes, just like the situation with me speaking with individuals, how I'm saying it's not to embarrass people or to speak ill on them, how we're talking to Muslims because we're trying to come up with a way to rectify this issue. What we're starting to see is Muslims, because they're not going to a masjid, or the masjid doesn't have any classes, or whatever their reason. I can't go to no masjid. There's no Salafi masjids here. Or the one the masjid that was Salafi I was going to, they took them off the minhaj. And I'm using these examples not to attack the Salafis, but because I am Salafi, the majority of the people that I talk to be Salafi. So these are the things that I'm hearing from them. So a lot of my conversation is from personal experience and real-time conversations with the people that I'm having, not that I'm just lashing out against a particular group. But for whatever reasons, they not going to the masjid. And when we ask them different questions about ibadah, they have their own made up version of what they're doing. And it's like, where you getting that from? Where you getting this? And then, we getting it. But it's to try to rectify an affair. And trying to get them to learn to go towards Dalil. Because it's also proven a point that is my own point. Because it's my own opinion. But it's starting to be proven. And I mentioned it in countless videos. I watched how a particular group of people took hadiths out of our hands. Read this book. Read this book. We're going to go over this book. They took hadiths out of people's hands. Now people don't really know how to turn the hadiths for ibadah. Generally, this is real talk. The majority of times when I see people turn and try to look up something in a book of hadiths or something, it's to win an argument that they lose. They trying to prove themselves right, or they trying to prove somebody else wrong. Now they know that they got to go look for some dalil. And unfortunately, when they looking in hadiths for those reasons, they generally either twist up a hadith, they'll find a hadith that's weak, right? Or there'll be hadiths more stronger with more detail, but they pick out a portion of it because they just trying to win an argument. And that's not a form of seeking knowledge. So therefore they're not getting the knowledge. They're arguing and debating, and they be wrong. But just sitting down saying, okay, I make salat. I'm finna go through the books of hadith and find everything that I do in salat. You know, from the takbir, is it this? 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 I'm finna go read the hadith. Everything I do. Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Everything I do, I'm finna go find an authentic hadith or a Hassan hadith for everything I do in salat. You don't see that. You don't see that. Ghusl. When it comes to making ghusl, which is two types. There's a regular ghusl when you haven't had sex, when you're not impure. Then there's a ghusl when you have had sex. I'm finna go to the books of hadith. Not this book written by this person who I don't know. Not this book by this one. And I'm finna find everything that I'm already doing exactly the way that I'm doing it in an authentic, a Sahih hadith or a Hassan hadith. I'm gonna find everything I do in Sahih Bukhari. Because if they do that, they're going to be looking at themselves the way I look at them. Not in a bad way, like, you see? You get it now? This deen is based on Quran and Sunnah. But see, all this stuff has been taken out of your hands and you've been focused on these things, which is a waste of your time. This scholar arguing with this. What are you... You know what I'm saying? Just like that's what somebody, wanted to come to me as an affair. Oh, well, the brother said this, that, and the third. You said this in the video. Okay. Well, how do you feel about Sheikh Halabi? What do you mean how I feel about him? What did that got to do with what we doing right now? The affairs of two scholars or some certain scholars arguing over some issues that you and I don't even know the full details about. What that got to do with anything? Oh, well, if you take his position, that's this, and this. I don't mean nothing. I don't know his position. I haven't looked at it enough in detail, and I haven't looked at the people who said something about him in detail. I never looked at neither one of their sides of the arguments in detail because those are matters that don't concern me, baby. You understand? Y'all wasting people with all these type of things, and they getting all these books on how to criticize, how to talk about this, how to talk about that, when sometimes it's just some Arabic that's been taken out of context, putting in English, putting their own spin on it. But then at the same time, these people who busying themselves with that don't even know how to make ghusl after they done had sex, male and female, in proper detail, in accordance with authentic hadith. They ain't sat down and went and looked at every single action that they make in salat in a book of hadiths. Zakat, your 5 pillars. Right now, you have Muslims who arguing, debating, you off it, you this, that, and the third. Ask them how to make Hajj. They don't know. They don't know how to make Hajj. They don't know how to make Umrah. They don't know what to say before they get over there. They got to go over there and hopefully they just going to follow along. Let me do what y'all doing. But, you know you ain't supposed to listen to Shadid Muhammad for whatever reason. You don't even know how to make ghusl. But you have a lot of sex. You have other things going on where you need to make ghusl. And then not even knowing the importance of not making ghusl. Your salat ain't, if you don't make ghusl legislated way, right? And then you get up and it's time for Fajr. we gonna say we adults. You have sex 1 a.m. 2, 3 a.m. you go make what you consider to be ghusl. And then you go back to bed. Then you wake up for Fajr and make wudu. And make Fajr. You might think that your Fajr Salat is accepted. But it's not. Why is your Fajr Salat is not accepted? Because you still need to make ghusl. Then whatever you go on throughout your day, now the time for dhuhr comes in. You make wudu and make dhuhr. But you still need to make ghusl. Not my words. Look at the deen. But some people don't know that. They don't understand that. And like I be advising some of these brothers who married to non-Muslim women. Teach a girl how to make ghusl, man. Because it's a spiritual cleansing. You understand? And like when I mentioned in the video about the people who doing these things and making up their things, they have some things going on that Allah is not pleased with. I'm not saying Allah is not pleased with them per se, but some of the things that they doing, it says in the deen Allah not pleased with these things. How Allah choose to deal with them, that's between them and Allah. But just like for instance, if I'm sitting up here drinking a fifth of Hennessy while I'm talking to y'all and smoking a blunt, right? I know that Allah is not pleased with me smoking a blunt and me drinking. But Allah might choose to have mercy on me. But those actions, we warned against the intoxicants. Then I'm on a video that's going to go out on YouTube or the social medias. Somebody might feel some type of way and clip a little bit of that and spread it all through TikTok and all these other things. Now my sin is displayed in front of all these other people. But I'm thinking it's cool. I know those actions Allah not pleased with. So I'm saying the actions. But to me, because what the deen tell us, maybe the reason why they're in a position where they're making up their own deen is because they put themselves in a position with Allah Azza wa Jal to where they're not getting guidance. That's why I mentioned that. Not to ridicule them, but this is a major issue. So let me finish this little thing right here, because it done got a little long, because I want to answer the brother question. So it continues on and say, excellent character and holding themselves to account and occupying themselves with their own mistakes. None of us are free from mistakes. So how can a person look down upon or speak ill of other people's mistakes? Keep in mind, it's referring to mistakes, not what people is doing intentionally. Like you saying something about the drug dealers. That's you selling dope and all that. That's not a mistake. You out here wanting to be a murderer and shoot up E's and all that. That's not a mistake. Not necessarily, you know, you're not looking down on or speaking down on them, but there's a time for firmness in these type of situations. Imagine yourself being a Muslim and you talking about you a pimp. You even setting up Muslim women, Muslimas, to go dance at a club this night. I got you a gig to dance here all week. I need 5%. I'm gonna make sure don't nobody do nothing to you while you're dancing. Real scenarios, right? So when we ourselves are making mistakes as well, and once you reach this mindset, you will automatically attain the love, respect, mercy, and compassion for your brothers and sisters in Islam. Opposite, if you consider yourself as raised above all others, like for instance, all these other masjids in the whole city, garbage. Me, and him. We're going to write our names down right here. Me at the top, number 1. Him, number 2. And number 3, him also. Y'all can't listen to nobody but us. There's nobody better. And if you listen to anybody other than us, you off it. You an innovator. Anybody else you listen to that ain't us is an innovator. Just raising yourself above everybody else. Is this the manhaj of the Salaf? But like I say, but the opposite, if you consider yourself as raised above all others and being the best amongst them, then you will not be able to carry a respectful and humble personality. Now, it's a different story, like if the people think it. Like, man, the brother knowledgeable, man, this, that, and the third. But the brother not looking at you like, oh, man, brother, you ain't got no knowledge, man. Who you listen to? Who you take from? Or you take from that dude, he garbage. Why he garbage? Because he ain't me, him, or him. He ain't on the list that we made. Did scholars make that list? Nope. Well, this scholar said something about that list. Now you gonna say something about that scholar. This ain't the manhaj of the Salaf. This ain't the manhaj of the Salaf. So anyway, Khalil, he asked about the madhabs. I can make this quick, inshallah. The madhabs were, okay, the hadith about the best generations, right? The first 3 or 4. Not saying they perfect generations, not saying everybody in it, like there was nobody lived at that time that was on bid'ah, or there was nobody that lived in that time that had mistakes in their aqidah, or some kufr in their aqidah. Because sometimes it could start off as a mistake, but then it could lead to kufr. There was definitely those individuals. There was hypocrites and people who had different beliefs during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but Allah exposed them. So you have to understand, 1400 years ago, you got to look at the climate and see how education was taught, right? And see how the Muslims started to break down, right? You had people who started to say that they was prophets. Some of the Sahaba even had to murk a dude out who claimed to be a prophet. But some people went with him. He has an influence and effect on some people. Sometimes when people influence and they affect it, even if they get away from that person, they still carry some of what they believe or what may have got in their heart with them. So the Muslims started to fight. They started to go to war. Like, just think about this aspect. Ali and Aisha went to war against each other. 2 armies. And if a day came that they bumped heads personally and it could have went on, some murking would have went on. Okay? I mean, I'm talking about got busy. Not no talking about fighting. Not no discussing it when I see wars, spats broke out. Okay? So, you have people who was always trying to call people back to what the Rasul gave them and what was right. So you had imams. So what you have from the 4 madhabs that survived, because it was more than 4, right? They just survived. These people was just imams. So just like right now, you have people who stick with whoever their teacher is. They'll stick with that when some of them told that. You can only stick with our teachers and us. Now, not that they was forced, the origins of the madhabs, they didn't force it up on the people. But now, in particular regions, if you in the Indian, Pakistani region, the Hanafi madhab is pretty much forced on you. If you in certain parts of Africa, the Maliki madhab is pretty much forced up on you. You see what I'm saying? Around Egypt in certain areas, Shafi'i. Not everybody, but I'm saying as a kid and your parents and from their grandparents, all they know is Maliki madhab. All they know is Hanafi madhab. No hadith, no none of this. We just know madhab. So you have some people who force particular madhabs on people. You go to a Tablighi Jamaat masjid, they're going to force Hanafiya up on you. But you may not know it. Okay? So people don't follow those madhabs because of the hadith about the 3 generations. Because unfortunately, some of the people who claim the 3 generations as the Salaf, some of them will say out of their mouth, we don't follow no madhabs. Because some of them don't realize that those 4 imams are from the Salaf. So if you follow the manhaj of the Salaf, how can you knock those imams? And me seeing some of them in debates, they didn't even know that them people was from the Salaf. Now them people ain't from the Salaf. Yes, they are. Then some of them try to exclude Imam Ahmed. But anyway, to the point. So they don't follow those madhabs because of that hadith. You understand? They're from those generations that the madhabs was the people from the madhab are from those generations. So they was imams. They had students. They was in different regions. There's no internets. There's no phones. People had to go visit people. Doc Keek, let me show y'all something real quick. So, there's no convenience like what we have. This right here, this is the symbol of the people of Hadith, right? I'm showing this because these was quills. Now, this is a fancy one with metal tip, but they didn't have this. Imam Bukhari wrote Sahih Bukhari with one of these. So a lot of their books and stuff, this just showing, look how serious they was about knowledge. Some of your books and all that stuff, they was writing with things like this. Figuring out ways to make ink. So in certain regions, Imam Hanifa in the Kufa area, he was just a great imam. The people loved him. He was a real honest, honorable person. And people went and sat at his feet and learned from him. He learned from what he had evidence. He taught from what he had evidence for. And if he didn't have evidence for it, he issued out his opinion. Or this is what I learned from this person or that person. Reason why I'm saying that, because they make excuse for some of the things that he do that's in his madhab. Well, the excuse is the evidence may not have reached him. Right? Because think of the time. All the hadiths, Bukhari hasn't collected all the hadiths that's Sahih. All this stuff hasn't happened yet. So the knowledge is just scattered out. You see what I'm saying? It's just scattered out. So they didn't have it all. But in his region, because of the people loved him, and they learned from him, and they only learned his madhab. So when they left and traveled, and they were students of his, they can only teach his madhab. So then you had other, like you had somebody who fought with him tooth and nail, pointed out all the mistakes, this, that, and everything in a Hanafi madhab. So then you had others who come along who was familiar with him, and then some of what they felt like was mistakes in this madhab, they took that stuff out and added the corrections. Now you have the Shafi'i madhab. Now you have the Hanbali madhab, who was able to look at some of these other madhabs. Okay, boom, 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 boom. This is a mistake. We don't do this. This is da'if. This was weak. So boom, 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 boom. But people love them people so much. No, they never made no mistakes. Everybody else make the mistakes except for us. Kind of like what you're starting to see now. So people end up becoming fanatics on those madhabs. Great Imam Shakani, extremely cold individual, started off as a Shiite. And he, came from a family of Shiites. And he ended up becoming Sunni. And in some of his books, his writings, he said that the madhabs, he started to see the change in region because he was a person who traveled. He said before they started doing all these madhabs and this my region, this, that, and the third, he said when you travel, everybody did everything the same. Then when these madhabs came out, you go to this city, you got one person, you got one row, or like right here a person praying with his hands like this, right next to him a person praying with his hands like this, and then right next to him it might be a person praying like this. Kind of like what you can see now in the masjid. You can see people in the masjid, hands different, some takbiring, some don't. So you wasn't seeing this until the influx of the madhabs started spreading. So but this is in everything because they feel like the madhabs cover every act of ibadah. So that's why they say you don't need nothing but a madhab. You choose a madhab and you can learn how to practice your deen from A to Z. Everything you need to know in your religion, and it's permissible because you could choose, you know what I'm saying? Because these great imams comb through every last issue in the deen. So all you have to do is find a madhab and stick to it. But something ain't right because if that's how it was, every last one of them would agree on every last issue. But this is the narrative that is pushed. This is the narrative that is pushed. So Imam Shakani was speaking on how, like you said, every region you going, now it's starting to be, everybody starting to do things different. You see what I'm saying? Then you might just go to one whole area where we just going to use the word country, and you might be a person from Ahl Hadith. Oh no, we don't do Hadith. We just follow this school of thought. Then you go to the next city over, and now they follow a different school of thought. So like he said, him being around and seeing this change, and his wording was kind of like madhabs kind of ruin things. And like right now you have people who arguing and fighting and they think hadiths is the problem. Now see, hadiths causing all the confusion because in their mind, like I said, even right now, even with some students, I don't understand it. Where some students of fiqh be like, you don't even need hadiths, all you need is fiqh. Or they'll be like, what they had to saying, hadith is the medicine, but the scholars of hadith got the medicine, but the fuqaha is the doctors, or some little saying that they saying. But like, from the ones who don't have the knowledge, and these little sayings and these little catchphrases start spreading, you have right now layman people like, we don't need hadiths. And that's why I'm pointing out a lot of the actions that you see people doing Like if they say, I follow the Hanafi Madhab. Cool. If a Madhabs teach you your religion from A to Z, everything, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, where's the person that's teaching it to you though? So now you just have people who say, well, I follow the Hanafi Madhab. I follow the Maliki Madhab. Okay, who are you sitting with learning it from A to Z, and what's their qualification? That's the part that's missing. Just like I'm Salafi. I'm on the minhaj of the Salaf. Okay, who are you sitting with learning how the Salaf understood things? Because like I said, wallahi, I done seen Salafis with a name get to arguing with Asharis talking about Imam Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik wasn't from the Salaf. I seen this Ashari brother say to him, so you say you Salafi, which means you follow the minhaj of the Salaf, right? He said, yeah. He said, well, how can you do that and they all didn't have the exact same understanding? Dude was dumbfounded. And I'm talking about this cat been Salafi for years. We talking about at least 15 years. How can you follow the minhaj of the Salaf when everybody from the Salaf didn't have the exact same understanding? You know what he said? Well, they all had the exact same understanding in Aqidah. Because he don't understand. Because it was members from the Salaf who came and said, Allah is everywhere. Allah exists without a place. Allah is this. Allah is that. It's people from the Salaf who came up with those sayings. So how did everybody from the Salaf, because the people that they listen to, the Salaf never differed in Aqidah. That's because you don't know what the Salaf is. And unfortunately, you done put your name on the list as me, and you the only person they could listen to. And there's countless videos and hours of them in lectures talking about the Salaf never differed in Aqidah. How come they didn't? How come they didn't? You understand? We're not talking about the Salaf for Saleh, but my point is, they didn't even know that these people were from the Salaf. So I know that's a long answer. I'm a little riled up. I'm a little upset, man, because I get mad about this because I see the harm that is done and that is doing, and it's getting worse. But that's why some people follow a madhab, man, because they was told to. Do I follow a particular madhab? No, I don't. Because I don't have to. You see what I'm saying? I know you don't have to. Can you go through a madhab and be pretty decent? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But because they feel like certain things is a difference of opinion, because when you understand that the Salaf, like what I'm going through this book, they sought unity as opposed to disunity. So they rectify ways to bring an understanding of the four madhabs to stop the fighting and keep unity. Okay, you want to pray this way right here? Because some feel like this wajib, you have pillars, that's not a pillar. Alhamdulillah, you could go ahead and do that. Or you could do this, or you could do this, although there's no actual proof for it, because they're trying to keep the unity. You see what I'm saying? But when you dig deep into the books, then you'll see what they'll say, okay, but this is the most complete way. Not because these was still great imams. They was from the Salaf. They was the righteous ones from the Salaf. You see what I'm saying? It was people from the Salaf that came up with the saying that the Quran was created. Imam Ahmed was beaten, tortured. They was prisoning imams, great imams, if they wouldn't say that the Quran was created. All that happened during the time of the Salaf. But some of these people who run, the Salaf never differed in Aqidah. You need to go learn from somebody. You need to go learn from somebody that ain't on that list you have to stick to. You understand? And then some of them later on, they started trying to clear it up and say, what a Sahaba. We meant the Sahaba. The Sahaba never disagreed in Aqidah. Not as far as belief in Allah, belief in the book, belief in the angels, which y'all refer to as the 6 articles. But when it comes to certain things concerning those things, they definitely differed about stuff. but then years later, 10 years later, it took for me to hear one of they notable guys say something in 2024 like, dang, I knew you was wrong when you said it back in 2012. Oh, well, that is Aqidah, but not main Aqidah. It's branches of Aqidah. Even if it's branches of Aqidah, they still disagreed in it. And for a person like me, y'all ain't never read Tafsir Qurtubi. Because when you read Tafsir Qurtubi, you be like, whew, they be going at it, Jack. But anyway, I know I probably ain't gave your answer, man. I did, but I didn't. They don't follow the madhabs because of that hadith. And in this day and time, people have just become fanatic on madhabs, and because it's their way. I'm Maliki, so I know the whole thing, but they don't like what I'm saying. The way that they talking about they do things don't come from the Maliki madhab. The way you saying what you do, that don't come from the Hanafi madhab. What you saying you do, it don't come from Shafi'i. Oh, well, I'm Salafi. Okay, but what you doing is not from the minhaj of the Salaf. Wallahi, wallahi, wallahi. The Salaf never disagreed in Aqidah. I swear by the Lord of the Kaaba. They be cracking me up. I swear by the Lord of the Kaaba, the Salaf never disagreed in Aqidah. Okay, so what about the people from the Salaf that said the Quran was created? They get to sound like Scooby-Doo them then. Whoo! Yeah, you need to go learn from somebody else that ain't on that list. You understand? But anyway, inshallah, man, that answers your questions. Madhabs is good. There's a lot of good in them. They just not flawless. There's mistakes in every last one of them. Are some better than the others? Absolutely. Because Shafi'i and Hanbali, they hadith based. They're hadith based. So like even with me showing these statements from the Salaf, just a couple that I read, you could see, you would notice how they cloaked in Dalil. The Rasul said, Umar said, it's cloaked in Athar. Narrations in hadith and Quran ayats. It's extremely Dalil based. The Salaf was extremely Dalil based. But man, it's been long enough, man. I done held some of the brothers on here too long. Inshallah, that answer your question, man. I apologize for being all over the place. I'm just riled up, man. I'm just riled up. And, this stuff affect my heart, man. And I just wish it could be over with. And it affect my heart in a different way because I never thought I would be alive when these hadiths would be revealed. I never thought I would live in a time to see that this was happening where the hadith said this was going to happen. And it just make me think about the end even more and how it's not going to be fixed. Because the hadith say it's going to get bad. And I'm seeing that where the hadith say the times it's going to get real bad. Then it'll get better. but it won't be like it was before it got bad. So it's going to get better. Then it's going to get bad again. Right? Then that bad is going to get better, but it's not going to be like the time it was before. So I seen, boom, I seen where it started getting better. And I see where it's starting to get better because the scholars done had to come out and start getting on them. And that's why you don't hear Jawad Tardell, all in a public space. Low key, they still do that stuff inside the masjid, but they make sure those little things not all on YouTube and not all on Instagram. They keeping it in a small circle. I be around. Some of my guys still be up in there. We still have our, like I say, even our group with us right here doing late night sessions. It's two of us out of our group. Out of our group, only one of us not Salafi, and that's Deeds. Then the majority of us, we Salafi, but we're not on that side of the fence. Two of us is on that side of the fence. But like they say, they don't throw me off of it. They don't kick me off of it because I don't like nobody, is what they say. I don't like nobody, so I'm neutral. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so even them, they still have some of that, you know. And they right here in the chat right now. They my guys. I love them. We kick it. We get down. You know what I'm saying? But they be on that. Well, you keep on thinking like that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, man, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.